The stories you're about to see are real. The rewards up to $5 million are real. This is Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't.
Richmond County Sheriff's deputies report 2 Oak View Place apartment robberies took place early Monday, 3/2/15. One resident says that a man with a white Halloween mask showed up with a pole and pointed the pole at him and demanded money. Whenever the resident would not give the man with the pole money, the robber ran away and didn't get any money. But an hour later, another resident reported that he had to wrestle a rifle out of a bandit's hands. That man told deputies he was putting his work tools away in his truck when he said a man in a white ski mask and a rifle demanded cash. The resident distracted the robber by shouting, "Hey, look, it's the police!" and then started wrestling for the gun. During the struggle, the robber hit the victim in the head with the gun and dropped it and ran away. Reportedly, it was not loaded. If you know anything about either one of these incidents that took place at Oak View Place Apartments involving a male who had a white mask on and a stick and then came up with a gun, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid.
Hepzibah police report a Hepzibah woman called after she discovered someone had stolen her new show dog, a brindle-colored American bully, from its kennel. The woman told police she discovered her dog missing from behind a vacant home on her property that she had a kennel behind when she went to feed it around 3 p.m. Monday. The female victim showed a deputy a receipt for purchasing the dog for $2,000, upon which she was still making payments. The fact that the dog was hidden in an obscure place behind an empty house in a kennel that would be very hard to find indicates that this might be an inside job. If you know anything about this theft of this very expensive show dog, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid.
Richmond County Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer Sergeant Glenn Ron reports, at approximately 22:55 hours, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office received a call to the 3700 block of Pinnacle Place in reference to an attempted armed robbery of 2 individuals. The 2 victims were exiting their vehicle when they were approached by 2 unknown black male subjects armed with handguns who demanded money. A struggle ensued and the victims were able to break free from the subjects, who then fled the scene on foot. The victims were treated for several injuries at a local hospital. Investigation is in its early stages at this time, and further information will be released when available. No other information is available at this time. If you think you know who or where these 2 unknown black male armed subjects may be, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
Crime Stopper Suzanne Hamner reports, Obama looks to unconstitutionally take over local and state police. With Obamacare, the government took control of the healthcare insurance industry and, in effect, the health care of Americans under the ruse of ensuring the 20 to 30 million individuals who did not have healthcare insurance. Obama is now set to do another takeover, local and state policing. Monday, Obama unveiled his plan for the takeover, which the Daily Caller has dubbed Obama Law. Obama went on to say, in just the way the government took over health care through mandatory requirements for health insurance policies, issuing subsidies and federal grants to the state for medical expansion, Obama is set to exercise expanded control over local and state law enforcement. Per Obama, we need more information to find out how to take to scale best practices when it comes to training so that police officials are able to work in a way that reduces the possibilities of bias. Translation: all law enforcement officers are racist and need to be retrained. Obama suggested that state and local policing may need to be subordinated to federal authorities. Whenever Obama gets his fingers in the pie, you can guarantee he's going for the whole pie, not a sample. Now it begins. The federal government, under the control of one Barry Soetoro, also known as Obama, is following the move by Adolf Hitler in creating a brown shirt law enforcement army. Despite what Obama says, this federalization of state and local law enforcement has nothing to do with any type of law enforcement or policy and procedures used by those agencies. Obama lies time and time again. This has everything to do with being able to identify and target individuals and groups at a local level Obama views as dissidents. In other words, if you belong in a category Homeland Security identifies as right-wing extremist, or terrorist as they call you, then you will be targeted for roundup or worse. What better way to accomplish that than to elicit local and state law enforcement cooperation? Several reporters in the media have been warning their audience about the actions of Obama that would lead to the subjugation of individuals and the internment of individuals in FEMA camps. But many of the sheeple still don't see that the wolf, not the shepherd or his trusty sheepdog, are standing guard over them. The government has taken over healthcare insurance and healthcare, usurped education, and further seek to brainwash our children through Common Core and cause the property and housing to bubble through mortgage rules established for the banking industry, not the citizens. All these past actions have resulted in disaster. If the past is any indication of the future, the federalization of state and local law enforcement will be as well. There will be many who say, if you aren't doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. Well, Skippy, there are many millions of Americans who have done nothing wrong except exercise their rights, and their government has declared you terrorist. Let's not forget all the information the government collects on its citizens through the NSA spy activities. Does anyone really believe the government wouldn't slice and dice information to make some appear guilty in order to get them into a FEMA camp? The government already forged a birth certificate for Obama. Obama uses a stolen Social Security number, and computer-savvy individuals have already photoshopped photos and spliced together audio that changes the original content. Emails can be done the same way. Anybody can be made to look guilty as sin, hauled away to a FEMA camp, and all of their possessions turned over to the government. At this point of time, before the takeover, Americans need to band together at the local level, bombarding elected officials to initiate laws preventing their agencies from taking part in this fiasco. Citizens will need to press their county sheriffs to maintain their oath to the Constitution of the U.S. and their respective states. States' legislatures will need to be bombarded with a grassroots effort to resist this Nazi establishment of the American brown shirts. If this is not stopped, the U.S. will experience all the flavor of Hitler's Nazi Germany, meaning America will no longer be a free country.
Well, seizing on the opportunity to use national outrage surrounding an out-of-control police force that are shooting unarmed people all across the country, Obama has used this as an opportunity to unveil a new national policing policy, which amounts to little more than a federalization of the nation's police. This plan is entitled Task Force on 21st Century Policing, and it's a plan for a progressive takeover of state and local policing.
The Obama administration is taking control of state and local police by adding more rules to federal funding that cops have to obey. It's the exact same strategy the feds use to create Common Core. To get federal money, you have to do what the feds say. Problem is, police are already addicted to getting free goodies from the government, from riot gear to grenade launchers and even MRAPs. And just like the lawmakers up in D.C. who listen to special interests and not the American people, the neighborhood cops are going to listen to feds who are showering them with free gifts and not your local community. This is one way the Obama administration is fighting back against states who are refusing to enforce federal gun control and executive amnesty. It's also similar to Agenda 21, in which your city council takes orders from the UN and not the taxpayers. Unfortunately, this is exactly what Obama wants, to expand federal power at the expense of not only your voice in government, but also your rights.
Now, there are some positive recommendations in this plan. They are including things like eliminating these ticketing quotas, having less confrontational practices by police at protests, obviously not wearing riot gear, but maybe going in soft cop clothing. They want to diversify law enforcement so that they will reflect the community that they're going to serve. And also, this should be a no-brainer, they want to collect more data on shootings and deaths by police, because as you'll recall, as a result of everything that's happened this last year in Ferguson and so on, a lot of states are not even required to say how many people have been killed in encounters with police. Now, the president basically gave a little wink to his media allies and said, focus on these things. He said, I expect our friends in the media to really focus on what's in this report and pay attention to that. And this is, of course, instructing the media allies to help this federalization of policing. But one thing that's sure to be overlooked by these allies of Obama's in the media is the fact that this police task force is recommending the doing away with the FBI's immigration violator database. Now, this pertains to the FBI's National Crime Information Center database. This was actually created decades ago. It collects information on everybody, but one specifically for immigration violators was enacted in the early 2000s. So there's nothing about scrapping that entire database that's collecting cross-jurisdictional information and sharing that with police officers on citizens, but they want to do away with the part that's pertaining to the immigration violators. This database allows officers to find out if the people that they're interacting with are wanted for crimes in other jurisdictions. It tells officers if a person has an outstanding removal order, if they failed to complete a registration requirement, or whether they've previously been deported with a felony conviction. So despite the fact that this is a very useful tool in tracking immigration violators and possible terrorists, the Obama-appointed task force is suggesting that it be put on ice. So this is part of a larger immigration strategy, of course, which is taking immigration enforcement out of the hands of local and state law enforcement agencies and, putting that under the jurisdiction of Homeland Security. So now we have a president that is saying that he wants to ban certain types of rifle ammunition because it's dangerous. It can be used to potentially pierce through a cop's protective armor if it's fired from a handgun. So here he's considering banning a certain type of this popular rifle ammunition because, he's so concerned about law enforcement, yet he's wanting to do away with a useful tool that is allowing police officers to cross-check and see if they're coming in contact with any criminal illegal aliens, potential terrorists, or gang members, people who have already been deported, for criminal activity, when those are the ones that they're really trying to have Border Patrol focus on. Those are the ones they really are wanting to deport, but yet they're doing away with this really useful tool and, of course, putting agents in harm's way. So it's very mixed messages there. But let's take a look at this little town in Texas. They seem to have the answer to all of these problems. They're just getting rid of their cops altogether. Now, this is Sharpstown, Texas. It's located just southwest of Houston. They decided in 2012 that regular public policing was proving wholly ineffective, and they opted not to renew a contract with the constable's office. They replaced the entire police department with private security officers with the company SEAL Security Solutions, and they saw a remarkable drop in crime by 61%. Now, James Alexander, who's the director of operations for SEAL, told the reporters at guns.com that the reason for such a dramatic drop has come because there's more sensible policing in areas that need it the most. They don't just randomly drop off a cop in an area and say, "Go patrol!" And they actually engage with the community. Of course, there is a less bureaucratic paperwork that they have to deal with, and there's more accountability. Here, these are private contractors, so if there is a claim made against an officer, that means that claim is against them personally. There's no taxpayers there to bail them out. It's not a faceless government agency that actually gets a paid vacation if they do something wrong. Now, in addition, companies like SEAL are operating as businesses, and so that means they're profit-driven. They have to provide the most efficient service. And private contractors are less likely to receive hordes of unwanted and outdated military equipment. So what do you think? Should the rest of the country be giving police a little bit of competition? Here in Sharpstown, Texas, they're saying that they're having to, think a little bit more about their policing policies, really look at who they're hiring. And people are going to be a lot less likely to pull the trigger on an unarmed teenager when they know that they will be personally held accountable and they're not just going to be covered by that thin blue line and, of course, get paid time off. Or in the case of 12-year-old Tamir Rice, Cleveland blamed him for his own death. They said that this 12-year-old young black boy who was playing with a toy gun on the playground was directly and proximately, his death was caused by the failure of Tamir to exercise due care to avoid injury.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
In an upcoming vote to refund the Department of Homeland Security, we want to just let you know that most of the Department of Homeland Security could be replaced and save billions by the 35-year-old Crime Stoppers network. That would make the U.S. security system worldwide at a percentage of the current cost. Google Crime Stoppers and see. We can throw a ton of our own money in on this, too. Crime Stoppers is the oldest, largest, most successful police-run crime-stopping tip line the world has ever known. That stops and has stopped more crime than everything DHS has ever done put together. Let your congressmen and Senate and all your representatives know you want to be represented by your local hometown Crime Stoppers that you've known all of your life, because they can be trusted, and we have already turned in fantastic results, whereas Department of Homeland Security appears to simply be a tool for corrupt politicians to further erode your rights, control, and threaten the very people who pay all the bills for Department of Homeland Security.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
If you're like us at Crime Stoppers, you've probably heard various anti-gun groups claiming that the increased acceptance of firearms in American society is going to lead to more violent crime and gun accidents. Unfortunately for the gun grabbers, we know that gun accidents have been steadily declining for decades for both children and adults, and are now at an all-time historical low, even as firearm ownership in the United States is an all-time high both in terms of raw numbers, more than 300 million firearms, and in terms of the percentage of the population believed to be armed, more than 100 million, and the number of permitted concealed carriers, more than 11 million. Both the number of gun owners and the number of total firearms in the United States every day is theoretically meeting all new, all-time highs each and every day. The gun control groups and the media outlets attempting to carry their proverbial water have been reduced to claiming that the social acceptance of gun culture is somehow leading to more violent crime. Perhaps they should have spoken with the FBI before crafting that lie. Figures released today in the FBI's preliminary semi-annual Uniform Crime Report reveal overall declines in the number of violent crimes and property crimes reported to law enforcement during the first 6 months of 2014 when compared to figures for the first 6 months of 2013. Violent crimes reported for January through June of 2014 were down 4.6% from the same time period in 2013. All of the offenses in the violent crime category, murder and non-negligent manslaughter, rape, aggravated assault, and robbery, showed decreases, and the number of property crimes during the same time period decreased 7.5%, with all three offenses, burglary, larceny, theft, and motor vehicle theft, showing declines. There are those who hype fear to sell gun control, then those who look to the hard data and come to the inescapable conclusion that firearm ownership reduces crime. The science is settled. A good guy with a gun stops the bad guys with a gun. However, if you find out that someone's participating in crime, or you've been a victim of crime, or you know how to solve a crime, please call Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid.
While pushing the idea that everyone that buys a gun goes crazy and instantly becomes a gunslinger, here's some stories that the anti-rights groups do not want you to hear.
It is investigators admit that she did everything right. She called 911, she armed herself, and she hid. But while she was on the phone waiting for help to arrive, she was forced to take care of the problem herself, pulling the trigger on a man she's certain would have killed her.
They tied my front door and my cut door. Now they're trying to break in my back gate.
Okay, stay on the line with me. I've already got off the started. Do not hang up, okay?
All right, I have a gun in my hand. I'm terrified.
May 6th, near 67th Avenue and Indian School in Phoenix. Police say 20-year-old Michael Lewis is breaking into the home of a widow who told me that her late husband taught her something that would save her life. How to handle a .38 caliber handgun.
Yeah, I've got a lot of options coming out now.
It just broken.
It just broke?
Yeah, it was my upstairs door.
Okay, yeah, I've got them coming out there. They're coming out as fast as they can.
The homeowner begs the dispatcher for help before hiding in the bathroom.
You don't need to answer anything. I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay? What happened?
I shot him.
You shot him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I've got everybody coming out for help, okay?
Please hurry. Don't get up, I'll shoot you again.
Out of breath, she tries to explain whether she's hurt.
I don't know. My face is bleeding. I'm bleeding from some places. I don't know where. I don't know. He was beating on me.
He was hitting you?
He was beating on me when he found out I was in there.
Michael Lewis pled guilty to second-degree burglary and aggravated assault. He was granted bond last week, and he is out of jail right now while he waits being sentenced here on September 15th.
The homeowner tells us he's on medical leave from his job with the Postal Service. He was at home just trying to get some rest when several doorbell rings woke him up.
I hear a strong knock. and I'm like, something going on.
Quentin Wood says it was the suspect breaking through his front door. You can see the hinges that came undone as Quentin grabbed his gun and called police.
It's quiet. I hear something happening, but I'm not sure what's happening, but I know he's in my house.
Seconds later, the homeowner came face to face with the suspect.
I'm like, man, why are you doing this? Why you do this? And he told me, I'm a thief. I'm a thief.
After that, Quentin says the thieves started coming toward him and he had no other choice but to shoot. Reporting in Northwest Harris County, Samantha Tashkin, KPRC Local 2.
Well, Ursula, police are telling us that it was the homeowner who shot this burglar and that it all started right here at this home right behind me. Now, it happened about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Police say the homeowner was asleep inside when he heard a knock at the door. He told officers he wasn't expecting anyone, so he didn't rush to answer it. But that's when he heard someone kick the door down. Police say that's when he grabbed a gun to defend himself.
He was able to grab his handgun in the process of 3 suspects breaking the front door into his location. He was able to fire off several rounds. One of those rounds hit one of the suspects.
After one of the suspects was shot, all 3 took off from the scene in a light-colored Camry. The suspected burglar that was shot was dropped off at Baptist Hospital downtown by the 2 other suspects. We're told that he is 26-year-old and he was shot in the upper torso and that he was later transported to University Hospital. As for the 48-year-old homeowner, we're told he's okay, and while the case is still under investigation, he will not face any charges. However, if the burglar recovers, he will face charges. We're live on the city's northwest side. Stephanie Cerna, KSAT 12 News.
The surveillance video captures it all. 4 suspects, armed and dangerous, attempting to invade his southwest side home.
The victim was able to get back inside his house, close his door, semi-barricaded, reach for a weapon that was easily accessible.
That's when you hear gunfire. The 4 men retreat, get into their car, but not before the homeowner's bullets hit the windshield. Pima County Sheriff's officials say the homeowner has surveillance cameras installed all around his house.
But the man gets her alone, her nightmare begins. He appears to have a gun in his pocket and orders her to hand over all her cash. But that's not all he wants. He also orders her to come around from behind her.
I got real nervous and I said, why? I've already given you money. There's nothing else. And by then I was terrified.
So terrified that she does something she's never done in her life. She grabs a gun hidden in a drawer and pulls the trigger. It's the first time she's ever fired a gun.
I felt that my life was in danger and I wasn't ready to die. I wasn't ready to go yet.
The suspect goes down, but he's still alive.
I was going to shoot him again, and that's when he started screaming, I don't have anything, ma'am, I don't have anything.
The suspect doesn't have a weapon, and now Smith could be in trouble, facing possible charges for shooting an unarmed man.
And I was more worried about them coming after me.
Fortunately for the sales clerk, the video shows her being threatened and shooting in self-defense.
These are only a few of the thousands of such stories buried in the archives of TV networks and TV stations. The truth is, gun violence is down, and the gun grabbers don't want you to know it. They want to brainwash you against guns. I'm Dave Michaels. Augusta Crime Stoppers is brought to you by WBEK Channel 16 and Augusta Crime Stoppers. You too could be a Crime Stopper. If you have any information on any crime, call our tip line at 1-800-222-TIPS. Augusta Crime Stoppers is a production of Michaels Media. Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't.